Okay, my name is Omoya Pelumi. I am from Nigeria, West Africa. I was a graduate of the University of Abuja, Department of Geography and Environmental Management. So currently, I am into climate advocacy and I do volunteering for private and non-governmental organizations. So some of all of this is focused on towards creating awareness and letting people know the current trends, such as that relates to the environment, and also trying to make sure that we create access to communities that don't have clean water and that have issues with getting this awareness or getting these informations about climate change.
Why did you decide to study and work on it?
Okay, as at 2020, after the COVID-19, so I had to, think of what to do. So trying to get a job was just out of the option because we tried applying for different organizations and firms, but it just keep coming the whole drama, such as who do you have or who do you know who is connected in such office or organization. So the whole stress, I just let that be. So I had to speak with a friend of mine who was my classmate then in secondary school. So he was like, this is what he had in mind to go into creating awareness and letting people know about the environment and all. And then it was more of promoting recycling at the very beginning of the idea. So we started the organization in 2020. So at first, I was more of being in the background because I wasn't really too fully active about the whole thing. So I was just more on in the background. But over time, I became proactive. That was as in 2021. Then currently, right now in 2023, I started going out there, being active in every activities and conversations.
So, as you said about what you're doing right now, can you tell us more what you're already doing, how you raise awareness in your community?
Okay, let's say take for example the last community I went to, that was last week Tuesday. I was in a community to raise an awareness for waste management and try to let them know about recycling. So what we did was that we go to a community and we met with the community head who was the chief. So we spoke to him and the chief had a son and some other guy who was the youth leader in that community. So we spoke to them about our initiative and what we wanted to do. So they were like, okay, this is good, and we let them know this is how we are doing this thing, this is why we are doing this thing, and this is when we want to do it. So they gave us a time. We work with the time. They let the community people know that this is what is coming to happen this particular day. So at that very moment, everybody stops what they are doing and just get back to being active on that very particular day. They get back to being around, make themselves available. So that very day, which was on a Tuesday, we got to the community. We started. Everybody was there at the chief palace. Everybody was there, seated. Some people were outside just to hear what we had to say. So we had a projector, and we had a mic, this public address system. So we had that, and people settled down. So we spoke to them. We did some slide presentation, and at some point, we also had to also provide light refreshment for them because these are persons that have sat down for some hours and all. So it was a very wonderful time.
How would you describe their engagement in this community and others that you are raising awareness?
Okay, if I well, I would say it has been quite effective because most of these communities, some of them don't really have idea about the opportunities that is around them, and some are not even aware of the impact that their activity is actually the impact of the activity on their environment. Let's say, for example, there were some of them that they didn't even know that you had to sort their waste. They just gather everything, both the ones that are recycled and the ones that are non-recycled. They just gather everything and just trash it. Some will just gather everything and dispose them into a flowing stream, or sometimes when the rain falls and there is a drainage that has an outlet of water flowing, some just dump it there. So I had to come there and let them know that this thing you are doing, it might not be affecting you here, but somebody else somewhere else is affecting you. And sometimes you don't even realize that this thing is more of in a cycle, because it might not be affecting you, but it might be affecting the teacher that teach your child that is in the next environment there. So I like to let them know that you have to sort. You also have to understand the waste you're generating. There's some waste you generate that you can still use them. You don't need to dispose them. So I also spoke to them about embracing sustainable practices and things that they don't have to engage in. So a lot of them, in fact, one of the communities that we went to, so when we went back there, for that was in August. When we went back there, as at in October, I saw some persons that came up to meet me and said, Mr. Pelumi, this is what we've been doing, this is what we've been doing. I was like, wow. And I was really impressed with that. In fact, I even, because there's an organization in Abuja here. What they do is they buy your waste, so they encourage you to bring your waste to them. So in fact, what I did was that I had a friend in our organization, so I just took her contact. So whenever I go for outreaches and I let people know about these things, so I will share her contact with these persons, so they will not elect a leader among them, that they will gather the waste and give to this person. This person will not contact the Eco Bata recycling company. So the Eco Bata will come down and gather this waste and pay this community people. In fact, it has been a very wonderful process.
So how do you explain such difficult and complex topics such as climate change for people who don't know? How are the best ways to do this?
Okay. In fact, when we go to communities, sometimes rural communities um, or underdeveloped communities, we some of these communities I can't speak English the way I speak to you, because when I speak English, some of them will be like, "Hey, we don't understand what you're saying." So we have another dialect that we communicate with in Nigeria here. So it's more of a broken English. So I can go as far as, like, now I can give you a sample here. Now I'm talking to you, I'm like, "Hey Nikki," I can say, "How far Nikki, how you doing?" So I don't come here now make I can't tell you, say this is what I want to tell you about dirty. Now I'm not saying waste, I'm saying dirty. So people connect more when you say dirty than when you say waste. So I found ways of using simpler terms. Then sometimes I also use a translator for communities that don't understand English, or that don't understand broken English. So I get a translator to be by my side, and I'll try as much as possible to use simpler terms. In fact, it has even worked, because when crying out awareness for climate change, that has been one thing that has actually been very, very effective. Using simpler terms to just address the issue, everybody is carried along and everybody understand what you are saying. And after using simpler terms to explain, I also use practical examples. So I will try as much as possible to create a scenario. Sometimes I might carry 3 women and 2 men to come out and say, okay, this person is doing this. So if this person does this, now for the fact that this person does this, what will happen to this person? You will hear their response, because they can connect with what is happening. It's their reality that I'm displaying to them. So I have found various ways to communicate with them on issues that regarding this, regardless of how complex the community is in terms of understanding what I'm saying. In as much as there's an audience, we will always find a suitable means to communicate with them.
When it comes to climate change, and how is it affecting Nigeria?
Okay. As at now, we have some environmental issues that are related to climate change. We have drought. We have flooding in some areas. We have deforestation, and in fact, we also have the loss of biodiversity. We also have there, 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 But one thing that one major impact that climate change has had previously before we joined this fight was the lack of awareness. In fact, majority of persons were not really aware about the issue of climate. That was also a major issue, aside the whole happenings around. So, but when people became aware of what when majority of persons became aware of what climate change is, people, a lot of NGOs and a lot of activists are coming out to talk about it. It has helped because it's not like we don't have those occurrence of climate change, but it's not as it used to be, because right now we already know, okay, if this occur, this is the ways to mitigate it. We already know when this is happening, this is what we should do to, prevent such from occurring. So what we are trying to do now, we are trying to, as much as possible, let promote a situation whereby people use activities or engage in activities that promote a sustainable environment, that promote a sustainable living, so that we will not be having issues of global warming, we won't be having issues of the flooding, we won't be having issues of desertification. So all these activities and open grazing that most persons usually engage in here in Nigeria. So we're trying to see how we can create awareness to avoid all this, because sometimes when people go into deforestation heavily, it affects not just the environment only, it also affects the atmosphere. So we're trying to see how we can create a lot of awareness around these issues to help with our own adjustments to a sustainable living.
So, as you're saying about raising awareness and what it looks like to be an environmental advocate in your country.
Well, I can say personally for me, it has been a great thing, because growing up I've always loved adding value to the life of people. I've always loved helping people. I don't know. This is just a personal thing for me. I don't know how other persons might see it, but I just love the fact that people are aware about what they are doing, about their choices. It's just like, being the eldest in the family. You are aware of some certain things, but then your siblings, they are not aware, but you have to be there for them, to let them know, to lead them, to guide them, to protect them. So by doing such things, you are helping them in every step that they are taking, in every decision making that they are taking. So they're not just doing whatever they want to do. They just know that, okay, if they are doing this, this is where it will result to, because of what they've had you said, experiences you've shared. So personally, being an environmentalist in Nigeria, it's one of the that's been a great thing. And personally, it's what I studied in school. So I am actually happy that I have a chance to, carry out my study. I have a chance to carry out what I studied in school. I have a chance to help people. I have a chance to impact not just my communities, but a larger the world itself.
Do society value science in Nigeria or not?
Okay. Well, I would say yes. I would say no, because it's 50-50 in a way. Sometimes it might be 60-40. You know, growing up here in Nigeria, a lot of persons tend to, are religious, and some actually more tend to believe what is in the Bible, some what is in the Quran, some are traditionalists, and we still have atheists in the country, though it's not as some other places in the world. So, growing up, a lot of persons tend to believe what is in the scripture. Some don't believe the whole science. In fact, as at when we were in school, then when we did a study of the theory of Darwin theory of evolution, a lot of persons had contradicting opinions to the topic. So, but over time, we've learned to, find a way that whatever we study in science, or whatever science is saying to us, we find a way to break it down, to explain it down to the society that, okay, hey, as much as you feel, okay, we know that you are a religious person, but you need to be open to this also. You need to see this. So we'll find a way to, lay it down to them, explain, break it down, tell them that this is this, and this is why this is happening. So we just find a way to explain to them. And sometimes they believe, sometimes they don't. Because we still have people who don't believe that climate change is real. Some people just feel it's hoax. So over time, I feel we just have to just carry out our duty as climate activists and advocates. We'll just let them know that, okay, this is this, and this is why this is happening. So as much as possible, we have that faith and believe that it will impact a larger society, if not everybody, but it will definitely impact a larger society.
And how about the government? Do they invest in science or not?
Ah, man, well, I I would say, yeah, to an extent they do, but most times, when people when a country wants to go into an investment, you can't compare the way Westerners go into investment than the way we Africans, especially Nigerians, how we go into investment. Westerners can go into investment, into investing into science and technologies for the joy of it, for the fact that it's adding value to people. But coming down to Africa, you have to now consider if it's beneficial, because people have to consider that fact, okay, especially when somebody is in power and you're like, okay, we have this proposal and we want you to do this. It's like, okay, why is this not in this particular place? But it's sometimes they are open to it and sometimes they are not open to it. Currently now we are trying to see how both private stakeholders and governments and the government can actually invest into renewable energy, because that is like one place that we want the world to actually embrace. One thing that we want the world to actually embrace at this point. We've heard of electric cars, but it's like Africans, they're not really running into that direction at the moment. But we're trying to see how a lot of people can promote, or we can try and get a lot of investors into renewable energies, because a lot of rural communities, some still use firewood to make food. Some still use coal to make food. Some still use stove, kerosene. Some still use the gas cooker to make food. So we're trying to see how we can, move from that process to another process. And sometimes they are aware of all these things, but the transitioning process, the amount, the cost of transitioning from this particular aspect to this particular aspect sometimes is what is just giving them that concern. When they're like, this is the amount we're going to spend to do all of this, like, so sometimes it's not just an easy thing for them to just do over time.
So, as you're saying that this is not an easy thing to do, so for you, in your experience, how does this kind of difficult impact your work as a climate advocate?
Okay, it does in a way, because not just in a way, in some ways. Let's say, take for example, I did an outreach in a community, and I was advising them about renewable energy. I saw a lot of them, because sometimes before I do a research, I have to first for carry out, before I go for an outreach, I have to carry out a research of the environment, the community. I want to see what their major issues, see their environmental factors. So I noticed a lot of them use firewood to cook. So sometimes I would engage them in conversation, like, why do you use this to cook? At this point, and I'm like, this is cheaper for me, very cheap, very affordable, very, very affordable. And some will be like, it's not like they don't want to switch, but it's just too expensive for them. So at some point in time, they were like, Mr. Pelumi, would you consider, getting this for us or bringing this for us in this particular location? So I was said, okay, I will definitely put this in mind, and if an opportunity comes where I am in a place to make sure you people have all of this, I will definitely bring it down there. So it's a challenge. It's more of a burden when you hear, people want to make change, want to embrace change, but they cannot because of the limited resources that they have at their disposal. And all of this means, all this whole means to actually to actually acquire renewable energy and all, it's not a cheap thing in the country. So we're carrying out advocacy every day, we're carrying out awareness every day to let the government and private individuals find a way to invest into these things, or find a way to bring it at a subsidized rate, so that people can, an average man can just get access to it. It will help the environment, and it will also help our work as an environmentalist. So if we go to a community and we're like, hey, why are you still using this, but this particular stuff is available, you could just, so people say, oh, I wasn't aware, they could just make that change. So but in a situation whereby they're not aware, you create that awareness, and now they want to make the change, but they now realize that it's expensive, it's way above their budget. They're like, hey, I think I just continue being using what is cheap and all. So that's one of the ways it actually affects our world.
So you're saying a lot about science and how raising awareness is important. So in your opinion, what is the importance of scientific work in a moment of climatic emergency as we are facing right now?
Okay, well, it's actually very, very vital at this moment, because it's actually what gives us a broader understanding of what we're actually dealing with, and what we are actually facing at the moment. Without science, none of us will be aware of climate change or the impact of climate change. So we have to also still acknowledge scientists who actually did their research and carry out their analysis of all of these trends and happenings around the world. So it has actually helped us. It has actually helped us. That last week I had a program where I had to talk about the 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 graves, some old graves, ancient graves that were being dug and all. Now, science, I had to study the science behind all of this. So I had to also, because from the science, I got an understanding of what is been happening. So I had to, talk from that angle and also give my opinion and suggestion. So without science, it won't give us a proper direction of where we are going. We'll just be going amiss. So science tends to help us know if we're going through this particular angle, this is what we should be talking about, and this is how we should be talking about it. Then if there is an happening, this is how to address it, and this is the best means going forward. This is an alternative solution to this. So it's actually very, 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 very key.
What can be done to prevent the worsening effects of climate change?
Well, I think I would just have to draw reference from here in Nigeria, Africa, because um, a lot of this is where I'm based, and this is where I've been all this while. Well, so far, what I've seen so far is we have to create a lot of awareness, and not just creating that awareness. We have to carry a lot of people along by creating awareness. We have to get these community people involved in our awareness also. And also we also have to like I said earlier, get more persons to invest into renewable energy, to see how we can reduce the reliance on fossil fuels and all. So if a lot of persons can actually invest into that, it will ease the that heavy dependence on it. So that's also one. Then also spoke about, I think one time I also spoke about creating that awareness down from secondary schools, letting secondary schools in second students in secondary schools know about what climate change is. More of like a school student in high school, let them know about it, because sometimes you check the curriculum and you don't have topics that relate to climate change there, unless when you get to university and uh, um, you're studying geography. So I feel climate change should be something that every department should talk about it. Sustainable practices, it should be in every course of study, because it's not just a geographical thing, it's not just an environmental thing. As a biologist, you should implement that. As a business person, you should also implement that. And as an economist, you should also implement sustainable practice and all. So I feel all of this would actually, aid the country. Then also we should also consider, employing individuals, because right now you have a lot of individuals who are coming out with wonderful innovative solutions. Like, there are a lot of technologies that are coming out, like just here in Africa. So if the government can actually, or private individuals can actually invest into such, empowering individuals and all, we would actually have will actually has stand very well against the fight towards climate change. So that's it.